many of us came out of a very anti-electoral left background, very suspicious of left politics, even if we had been involved, as Kathy mentioned, as teenagers. But once we became radicalized, we knew the truth. And at that point, we abandoned electoral politics. But then something happened in the early 80s and folks started to change. And I'm just curious, in the LRS, what happened?
My name is Bill Gallegos. I'm in Los Angeles, and I was a member of the League of Revolutionary Struggle. But before that, I had been, my origins are in the Chicano liberation struggle out of Colorado with the Crusade for Justice. And one of the trajectories led me to La Raza Unida Party, which was a major force in the Chicano Latino struggle, especially in the Southwest, which started as an electoral program in South Texas, where they actually took over the city council in the 1970s. And chapters developed throughout the Southwest, including in California, and we became active. So we were active in electoral politics through that vehicle because we felt we had been betrayed by the Democratic Party. So we tried to build an independent political vehicle, and we ran candidates in Los Angeles. We ran a campaign to incorporate unincorporated East Los Angeles, ran candidates in the Oakland area, where we were supported by the Black Panther Party. So there was some experience there. And then when I became part of the League of Revolutionary Struggle, as Warren said, we basically had an abstentionist perspective until the Jesse Jackson campaign in '84. And I'm going to focus more on '88. And I would say a lot of our encouragement to become a part of this came from our comrades who were involved in the Black liberation struggle and said, this is not a bogus electoral campaign. This is very much emerging out of the Black freedom movement, and we need to be a part of it. And they talked about the mass rallies of thousands and thousands of African Americans chanting, "Run, Jesse, run," and that there was a real social movement underneath this. This was not like some of the left campaigns that had been run by some organizations that had very, very progressive platforms, but no social base under them. And when we saw Jesse's platform, it was like the dream platform for the left. You know, a massive tax the rich, cut the military budget, a massive jobs and education program, equal rights amendment for women, recognition of Palestinian statehood, full rights for immigrants. I mean, it was just opposition to English only, things that were of special importance to us. So this was really very, very significant. And when we saw the kind of campaign that Jesse was doing, for example, talking to white farmers in the Midwest and unemployed white workers in Yorktown and in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, Illinois, saying, who took your farm? Who moved your plant? You think it was Mrs. Martinez in East Los Angeles? You think it was Mrs. Brown in Alabama? Who's doing this to you? It's the same people that are screwing over Chicanos and Latinos. It's the same people that are screwing over African Americans. I think we have a common adversary here in the big banks and in Wall Street. So he was talking about Main Street over Wall Street way before we heard that slogan in the 2016 campaign. And this really appealed to us. And I think for the League of Revolutionary Struggle, which always felt like what we call the national question was of strategic importance for the left, this campaign to us seemed a vehicle where we could begin to really build the kind of unity of oppressed peoples, of national liberation struggles, and progressive whites that could be transformative. So I think that's what really drew us in. And I was part of Latinos for Jackson, but the LRS was active in Asian Pacific Islanders for Jackson, Labor for Jackson, Peace Activists for Jackson. It was really, I think, just an enormous and enthusiastic response that our organization had. But we were pretty much, as Warren said, we were babes in the woods. And I think we had a lot of illusions about, you know, what this arena really meant.
So I was a member of the LRS in the, from the 70s to our dissolution in the 90s. And actually in '88, I worked on the Jesse Jackson campaign as part of his labor staff, which mainly I was out hustling the unions to either give him money or an endorsement, and at the minimum to stay neutral during the primary. So that's what my main job was, and I also went down to Houston for Super Tuesday. What are the things to put in a historical context? The LRS actually boycotted the 1980 elections. And we saw Ronald Reagan's election as the worst possible ever. Of course, we didn't know what was going to happen today, or we didn't know about George Bush #1 and #2. But we saw the Reagan election as you know, as close to the right as we could imagine at that time. So we didn't hesitate at all, I think, to get into the 84 or 88 campaigns with Jesse. I think in hindsight, we probably gave up too much in terms of what Jamala was talking about earlier about tailing Jesse a little bit, especially in the 89 period. But that was the context, because we had sat out the earlier elections, and Jesse did have the most progressive message in 84 and 88. We felt we needed to get back in, also because as a way of building the mass movement, because the masses were going to vote. The masses were much more engaged in electoral politics, even if we were going to sit it out.